The trader's son. His mother was taken away in chains. She was thrown among the captives, tied and helpless, being marched off to be sold like an animal. And her son, a young trader with no army and no power, stood there and watched it happen. Most young men would have wept. Most would have run away. Most would have accepted that she was gone forever. But this young man did something else. He walked straight into the camp of the powerful king who had taken her, and he made a deal that would change the history of West Africa forever. He offered the one thing he had, himself. He said, in effect, "Take me as your soldier, let me serve in your army, but give me back my mother." And from that single act of love, a warrior was born. A warrior who would rise from nothing, build a mighty empire with his own hands, and then hold off the mightiest army in Europe for almost 20 long years. His name was Samori Ture, and this is where his story begins. Long ago in West Africa, in the lands that today we call Guinea and Mali and the countries around them, there lived a young man named Samori. And he was not born a prince, he was not born a king, he was born an ordinary person into a family of traders. As a young man, Samori was a merchant. He traveled the trade routes. He bought and sold goods. He dealt in things like gold and cloth and kola nuts. And by doing this, he learned things that most warriors never learned. He learned how the whole region worked. He learned which kings were strong and which were weak. He learned the roads and the rivers and the markets. He learned how to talk to people, how to bargain, how to make a deal. And most importantly, he learned about the wider world, including strange new rumors of white men from far across the sea who were beginning to push into Africa with powerful new guns. So, Samori was clever. He was worldly. He understood people and places in a way that a simple village boy never could. But his life changed forever on the day his mother was captured. You see, those were violent times. The land was full of small kingdoms and warlords, and they were always raiding one another, taking captives and selling people into slavery. And one day, a powerful king raided Samori's people, and among those they captured and carried away was his own mother. Imagine that pain. Imagine watching soldiers drag your own mother away in chains, knowing she was going to be sold, and knowing you were powerless to stop it. But Samori did not stay powerless for long. He went after her. He traveled to the camp of the king who had taken her, and he made a bargain. He offered to serve in that king's army as a soldier in exchange for his mother's freedom. He would give his own strength, his own life to the king, if the king would let his mother go. And so Samori Toure became a soldier. Now here is where the ordinary trader's son began to become something extraordinary. Because Samori was a natural warrior. From the very start, he was brave, he was smart, and that clever trader's mind, which had once been used for bargaining in the markets, turned out to be even better for planning battles. He watched, he learned, he fought, and he rose quickly through the ranks. Soldiers began to notice him, then commanders noticed him. He was fearless in a fight, but he was also careful and wise. He did not waste his men's lives foolishly. He knew when to strike and when to wait. And before long, Samori was no longer just a common soldier. He was a leader. He had his own men who trusted him and followed him and would fight for him. And he began to gather more and more warriors around him. And then Samori made a decision. He would no longer fight for other kings. He would fight for himself, and he would build something of his own. So Samori set out to unite the land. But he did not just want to conquer for the sake of conquering. He had a bigger idea. He looked at all the small, weak, divided kingdoms around him, always fighting each other, always being raided, always at the mercy of stronger enemies, and he saw the same thing that great leaders always see. He saw that divided they were weak, but united they could be strong. So he began to bring the land together. Sometimes he did it by war, defeating a rival and adding their lands to his own. Sometimes he did it by making alliances and marriages and clever deals, using those bargaining skills he had learned as a trader. Piece by piece, region by region, Samori pulled the land together under his leadership. And as he did this, he built something that would become legendary. He built an army. Not just a mob of fighters, but a real, organized, disciplined army. He trained his men well. He organized them into proper units with commanders and officers. He made them loyal, and he made them strong. And Samori understood something that many African rulers of his day did not fully understand yet. He understood the power of the gun. He had seen how the Europeans, with their modern firearms, were becoming so dangerous, and Samori was determined that his own army would not be left behind. He wanted his men to have modern guns too. So he began to trade for them and buy them and gather them however he could. He was building an army that could stand up to anyone. And it worked. Samori's power grew and grew. His army won battle after battle. His territory spread wider and wider. And soon, the trader's son was no longer just a warlord with a following. He was the ruler of an empire. He built a large and powerful state stretching across a huge area of West Africa. He gave it strong government. He organized it into provinces. He made trade and farming strong. He made himself its leader, its almami, its commander and king. From the ordinary son of a merchant, Samori had risen to become one of the most powerful men in all of West Africa. And his army was feared everywhere. Tens of thousands of trained, disciplined warriors, many of them armed with modern guns. It was one of the strongest African armies of its entire time. Rival kings trembled at the name of Samori Ture. It was an incredible rise, from a young trader watching his mother be taken in chains to an emperor commanding a mighty army. And Samori had done it all himself, through courage and cleverness and sheer determination. But far away, a new and terrible danger was drawing closer. Because at that very same time, the great powers of Europe were carving up Africa between themselves. They were drawing lines on maps in rooms far across the sea, deciding which pieces of the continent belonged to which European country, without ever asking the Africans who actually lived there. And one of the hungriest of all these European powers was France. France was pushing into West Africa, deeper and deeper, taking land as it came. French soldiers and their guns were spreading across the region, and they were moving straight toward the empire that Samori had built. Two great forces were now on a course collision. On one side, the mighty French army with all the weapons and money of a powerful European nation, and on the other, Samori Toure, the trader's son, and his feared, disciplined army. They were going to meet. It was only a matter of time. And when they did, it would begin one of the longest and most stubborn wars of resistance that Africa has ever seen. To be continued in Part 2. Don't go anywhere, because in Part 2, the French army and the empire of Samori are finally going to come face to face. And the French are about to learn a hard lesson that this African king is not like the others they have beaten so easily. He is cleverer, he is stronger, and he is not going to fall. In fact, he is about to shock the most powerful army in the region and begin a war that will last for almost 20 years.